Hey everybody, it is Ebontis, and it's lunchtime in Destiny 2 with a bento box on the menu. Really bento tokens, but you kind of get the joke. Either way, go to the Drifter, pass this prologue task is here, you'll have 4 quests that you can pick up, and they are as follows. So, you've got Nightmare Lunch. So what you need to do in this one is complete activities on the moon. Nightmare hunts count for 25 progress of the 60 that you need. So if you do 2 nightmare hunts, or even 3 is probably still your fastest way to do it because they're pretty quick. That can be a really quick way to do it. I did a patrol, it was worth 1, so that's not really efficient. I did a lost sector, it was worth 5, and then I think when I got done with the 2 nightmare hunts I did, I came back and did a public event, and I was at like 56, and it finished. So that was probably worth about 5 as well for a heroic public event. Either way, if you want to knock this out, do 3 nightmare hunts, you'll be good to go. Pretty straightforward. When you do that, we'll head to Eris Morn. I'll show you what the loot and where you would spend your actual bento tokens on. I'll go over the loot with Eris. But for now, just you would, once you finish, go to her. You're going to get your bento token, then you can figure out where you want to spend it. Next quest is going to be Martial Moments, I think if I'm reading that correctly. For this one, you need to use 1 of a set number of exotics and get kills with it. Now, I think it's around 200 because it's one of those where it's like, I got 4 kills. I think it was around 2%, so something around that. Now, if you have Malfeasance, it's primary ammo. That's going to be the easiest one for sure. Wither Horde, maybe okay, but again, if it's not primary, like Touch of Malice, if you don't have Malfeasance, you probably don't have Touch of Malice from the raid. Whisper's a heavy weapon, Xenophage is a heavy weapon. None of those really ammo efficient. Arbalist, though, I will say, just about everybody has access to Arbalist through Shahan. I think he's got a quest that everybody can do. Now, 200 kills will probably take you a little while, but it is a gun that I think everybody has access to, and if you just like very frequently use it over the course of the next 2 weeks, you could probably get this one done. But if you got Malfeasance, that one's pretty easy. Get your kills that you need, and then again, head to Eris Morn to get your bento token. Third one, a Dubious Bento. So collect Dubious Celery from defeated targets in Gambit. I haven't done that one yet, but the Century Eggs on the moon, as you're doing stuff on the moon, whether it's Nightmare Hunts or Public Events or Lost Sectors, whatever, just as you're killing enemies on the moon, you're going to get random Century Eggs. They literally look like an egg icon that pops up, hard to miss. 10 eggs and 10 celery from Gambit. You might have to do, I don't know, 2 or 3 Gambit matches, maybe 1 if you're the person killing everything. And again, once you're done, go to Eris, get your bento token, and that one's good. Final one this week that we've at least got to start off with until Xur gets here is the Stuff of Legends. Now, if you finish the final encounter, make note of that. It's not the encounters that lead up to it, so they're almost incentivizing you to go look for checkpoints, which is weird, but that's what they're doing. Raids provide additional progress. Now, if you get a raid team and you run raids occasionally for whatever it needed, you might pull everybody together and get a raid done, and being as it's additional progress, you only need 2. So I would imagine if you finish the final encounter in any raid, you're going to be done. But if you do dungeons, I would recommend to just go to the Shattered Throne with a checkpoint, if you got a buddy, and go nuke that boss in about 60 seconds twice, and you'll be done with that one. The nice thing to know about this one is it's going to get you 2 bento tokens. This is 1, 1, and 1. This is worth 2. So you can get a total of 5 right now. But the thing to make note of is this is where you're going to get your Chatterwhite. So this is the other quest you're going to get from Drifter. And if for some reason you go to another character, you can pick this up, by the way, at Eris Morn, which will show you what's there in a second. But it says complete bento boxes with the Drifter as you fight tactical battles for the city. Bento box quests are obtained from the Drifter. So it's the quests that you complete grant you progress. Right now we have 4, and the Chatterwhite Shader is going to take 5. Now you'll notice it says additional quests are coming next week. So they did time gate it, or can be obtained from Xur this weekend. I don't know what Xur's quests are going to be. Maybe it's 1 more, so at least you could get your Chatterwhite Shader this week. But either way, you cannot get Chatterwhite at least until Friday when Xur gets here. Maybe next week, depending on what you have to do through Xur. We'll just have to see. But Chatterwhite is going to be available. Just know it's next week, and that's when you're going to be able to get it. So now I want to go to Eris Morn. I want to go through her inventory. Can let you know what I would recommend spending your tokens on. You can spend them on whatever you want, but these are going to be my recommendations. So once you've done any of the objectives, you'll head over to Eris Morn, and you're going to see what loot is available here at the limited time event. So material offerings, I really would not recommend spending these here unless you just get everything else you want and you're good, or you farmed everything and you're really good and you're just like free spoils. Sure, if that's like the last thing you need, totally up to you. But again, Ascendant Alloys, Ascendant Shards, Exotic Ciphers really are not worth spending your tokens on in my opinion. So I would probably skip over all these. Mementos, these are really up to you. If you want a certain cosmetic memento, by all means, totally up to you where you spend them. They only cost 1, so they're not too bad. But again, it just depends on if you just don't have anything else to spend on, then sure, get a memento, get some spoils, but more often than not, you'd probably be considering the loot first. We'll come back to armor in a second, and I'll go through all 3 classes, but for now, let's take a look at the weapons. So first you've got Cloud Strike. Now it is 3 Bento tokens. I don't know if we're going to get a total of 8 tokens. I think it was 8 total tokens, if I remember correctly. So right now, if we have access to 5, and then Zur might have something, and then we're going to get more quests next week. We're not going to get 4 more quests, so I'm not entirely sure if like the cap really is 8 or 9 or whatever it is. We'll see. But either way, 3 is a lot to spend on an exotic that you'll probably just eventually get from Zur or something somewhere else. Now, if this is just like you have everything else and somehow this is just a lacking piece of your arsenal, maybe, but honestly, you'll probably get it eventually somewhere else. So outside of Cloud Strike, that's a decision you gotta make if you do or don't want to spend 3 on it. But I will tell you, for PvE, the Cataphract, I would probably spend the 1 token, because you've got Envious Assassin and Bait and Switch. Great combination for DPS. Bait and Switch you gotta set up with other weapons anyway. Getting kills with other weapons overflows the magazine. Dump a whole lot of damage that you can trigger pretty quickly. You've got things like Alacrity if you're doing solo damage, Fluid Dynamics for reload speed, or even just one quiet moment. What I mean, like, honestly, you got options here, but Fluid Dynamics probably would work, I guess. Either way, these 2 are probably very good for DPS, paired on a Strand Grenade Launcher, and if you don't have one of those, and you don't have Adept per se, you might find something that's beneficial in here. All I'm saying is if you don't have a Strand Grenade Launcher that's really potent like these 2, you might want to pick this one up because it is 1 token, and if you don't have anything that's quite as good, or especially in the Strand category at least, grab it. That's an easy spend. Igneous Hammer. This is going to be a very PvP-focused weapon, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert on it. If you are a PvP person and you feel like an Adept one where you could throw a range modifier on here, you've got Fragile Focus and Precision Instrument, this is going to be a PvP god roll, great. For me, I'm not going to claim to know the PvP type stuff. It's decent, but I don't know if it's going to be the perfect roll. Either way, very PvP focused. If you want one, again, it's only 1 token. You got to spend them somewhere. Riptide. If you don't have one by now, you can do way worse because you've got the increased magazine size for the top half of the mag, reloading when you're at full magazine, chill clip at the top half of the magazine. This is all working together, plus charge time. But remember, as it is a very fast charge time weapon, you are going to do a little bit less DPS, but it's still a capable weapon, but you're going to have to hit him 3 times with chill clip because they changed it up. So it's not like the godsend, but if you don't have a chill clip, a fusion rifle in any aspect, sure, grab it because it's not a bad thing to have. It's just not as god tier as it used to be. Finally, Horror's Least. This is a PvP role as well, so not going to claim to be the expert, but Kill Clip, Perpetual Motion. You've got stability. You can throw range on there because it's Adept. You've got Stunning Recovery or Vanguard's Vindication. And then you've got range, accuracy, handling control, all of that stuff. For a PvP pulse rifle, this is actually probably going to be really good and just feel good because I think a lot of people like it. So if you don't have a pulse rifle that you like using in PvP, that one might be a go-to port for you if PvP is your thing. So that's the weapons. I would make sure you have the grenade launcher. If you like the PvP weapons, that's fine. If you don't have a Riptide somehow after this long, add it to your arsenal, tuck it in your vault, you never know. Now for the armor. The biggest thing I can tell you is the Hunter's basically all garbage because the highest stat roll they have is a 64, and it's not exactly the best. I mean, you've got an okay one here, but again, it's a 62, and if you think about Artifice armor, it's comparison to a 65. If you have a 65 stat roll piece of armor that's distributed well, that's the same, and you're good to go. So none of this is really going to be that useful. Now, if you don't have a class item, that is actually worth it. Notice these are all 2 tokens. So you really got to figure out where you're going to spend. You can't even buy a full set of armor, which I don't love. But of all things that you might want on any character, maybe it's a character you don't play as much, but you're like, I'm okay on the weapons. I don't really care about this stuff. But maybe you have an other character that you didn't get an Artifice grind done on. At least picking up the class item is going to be a good thing because it's universal to every build you've got. And it's always going to be a good thing to have. So you don't want to have an Artifice class item. That is actually probably the piece I would recommend. Now let me show you what the Hunter and the Warlock have, but honestly, like a 62, decent stats, but could be way better. 62, no resilience here, definitely not a PvE role. Way too much mobility and intellect for PvE, and then a 62, lacking recovery, okay distribution, but again, it's a 62. If you don't have any great armor, maybe, but please consider other things before this because it's a 62. You can find stuff that's better than this. So for the Titan, at least we have some stuff to talk about. Class item is generally going to be one of those, if you need it, cool. If you have a class item already that's Artifice, you only need one ever. But if you don't have one, it can be worth the spend. For the gauntlets, you've got a 67. Now, we are lacking recovery a little higher than mobility. If the mobility was where the recovery was, I'd be kind of great on these. It's still a total of 67, means you would truly have to have a 70 stat roll somewhere to make it equivalent to this. So this can be a very good piece of armor. A little bit of mobility isn't bad because we do jump around a lot. The lacking recovery kind of hurts, but at least resilience is high, so this could be a very possible pickup for a Titan. For the chest piece here, resilience recovery, great stuff to see there. No mobility. The lack in discipline kind of hurts, I'll be honest. Intellect, strength. You need a little intellect here. You need a good amount of discipline. You need strength for all of your abilities and recharge and stuff. Intellect, you typically just get your super from doing other things. So for me, intellect is not a stat I go after that much. And as it's the highest stat roll here, while it is a total of 66, this would not be my priority. If you're like, I don't have an Artifice chest armor and that's the only one I'm missing, that's an okay spend, but generally you can find a better piece of armor. Now, 64 with no resilience and high mobility, you can just skip this one straight away. And for the boots, again, 20 mobility, low resilience, low recovery, while the discipline and strength actually do look good. Unfortunately, unless you just know you have resilience covered and your boots are going to kind of be your alternate, give you a little bit of mobility kind of roll, I would probably skip this as well. So the best thing for the Titans is going to be the gloves as a potential buy. Class item, of course, only as you need it. Alright, so for the Warlock Artifice Armor, same rules are going to apply. If you don't have a class item, it can be worth spending your tokens on, because it's universal, stats aren't really going to matter, and it will at least carry you through until we get to Apollo and whatever upgrades are going to be there, depending on what other needs you have. For the arms, you've got 65 total, 18 resilience, more mobility than I'd usually like to see, because mobility I don't typically care about. Recovery, as that is the Warlock stat, feels a little bit low, but this could work for somebody who's trying to, you know, maybe not need the highest recovery in certain spots. It's not the most mobility, decent discipline, decent resilience, kind of a PvE role here. For this one, it's a 62. Now, you're not wasting anything on mobility, but if you have a 65 that is probably better spec'd out for your Warlock, then you're going to be set up probably with a better piece of armor. If you want flexibility, maybe, but this is probably not where I would spend your tokens. For the helm, you have a 66. Now, this is universal. It would take a 69 normal roll of some kind to probably be equivalent. But, again, if you took the mobility away and only had 2 there, you'd be able to distribute something like 9 points to maybe recovery or discipline or strength, maybe a little less intellect. So this one's only okay. Again, if you are missing certain Artifice slots, it can be beneficial to get a full set. And at least this is a total of 66, kind of a universal stat bump to everything, and then that Artifice choice where you might need those extra 3. Finally, for the legs, only a 63, a lot of strength, low discipline, not the most recovery, still 10 on mobility, probably wouldn't spend it here for the Warlock. So for the Warlock, class item if you don't have it, gauntlets are okay, and then helm is also okay, just kind of depending on your armor sets, where you may find needs, maybe what's going to be beneficial to you. So that pretty much covers it. When it comes to the gear itself, spend where you want to. I was just trying to give you recommendations, but again, spend your tokens where you want to. I wouldn't probably spend it on the resources, and with regards to the quests next week, I might do a really short video over any tips over these kind of things, but they're pretty straightforward. They're not exactly something that I would expect you need to spend a lot of time on, but if it says a bonus, just know that that's going to be pretty substantial. And if there's anything specific weapon related, try and find the one with primary ammo, probably going to be easier. If you're going to go do an activity for certain things, then of course just spend a little time in there. And for raids or dungeons, if it repeats that again, or if there's something weird this weekend, we'll find out. But again, this is worth 2. So if you can do that final encounter, find a checkpoint for Shattered Throne, that's going to be the fastest way to get that one done. Once we get up to a total of 5 of these quests, you'll get your Chatterwhite. Alright, so that covers everything that I know of. Thank you all very much, and hopefully you guys found this one beneficial. If you did, drop a like, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to cover Destiny along with many other games coming up here this year, so if you just enjoy my content in general, subscribe, turn that alert bell on, and if you guys are looking to find any more, we've got a Patreon, you can do YouTube memberships, find me on Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever. It's Ebontis everywhere. Thank you, I'll see you soon.